So it's about showing the story of these four journalists and how they deal not only with the violence. No, those documentaries exist and they're 10, 12 years old. This is a documentary about how they keep doing their work despite the violence.
Hola, Santiago.
Hola, Jana. Mucho gusto.
Mucho gusto. Thank you so much for your time. Pleasure to talk to you and to talk about State of Silence. I was like, I was sad, but at the same time, I know that the documentary is very necessary right now. But like, I'm sad to see the stories like that going on with us journalists. So, but because that happened not just in Mexico, that happens in Brazil, happens in Venezuela, everywhere in Latin America, especially. So I want to ask you, how did you find the story, or the story was found you first? How was that came about?
Yes, well, thank you. Yeah, it's a documentary that it's always bittersweet because we want the message to travel, but it's a documentary that shouldn't have to be necessary, no? So this story found us because it's a reality that has been going on for many years in Mexico. The war against drugs began in 2006, and the violence it was like a spiral downwards to this level of violence that where we're stuck now. And sadly, the journalists, the ones that touch the human side of the consequences of this so-called war against drugs, they become dangerous, no? Because they keep us human, they keep us sensitive, they keep us awake, and for the certain elements of the authority and of the forces behind power, this is not what they're looking for, no? So then they become these uncomfortable beings, and they're being chased, they're being killed, they're being disappeared. Their families are suffering the consequences of this violence. And we began this project 6 years ago, and throughout these 6 years, that the violence never stopped. So for us, I mean, we're very satisfied that we can put this out now, especially when there's a transition in the government in Mexico. It's an election year in the US, so it's naturally a year of change. And as I said, like we knew that this documentary had to come out at this moment. And throughout the 6 years that we worked on it, we only saw how necessary it was because that violence never stopped. So it's about showing the story of these four journalists and how they deal not only with the violence. No? Those documentaries exist and they're 10, 12 years old. This is a documentary about how they keep doing their work despite the violence. No? And I think that in that sense, we try to be an empowering message, not one that we have to be very honest and the reality is crude. But at the same time, we also want to empower what the journalists do every day, no? And that the citizenship and the communities walk together with the journalists.
Yes, and to find those journalists, because they need to have that courage to put their faces. I know that sometimes they know what it is, they know who they are, but how was the process to find them, to the four journalists that you picked?
Yes, well, with Jan Albert Hudson, he's a representative of CPJ in Mexico. He knows all the independent journalists in Mexico. So we were talking with him about who we could speak with, and he came up with very, very appealing names, and we put together a list. And we were considering, I mean, the four journalists that you see on screen, but also others in different areas that touch different subjects. And the reason that we chose these four was because through them we could do a portrait that was complete, that was total, that showed how the violence is systemic. Because it doesn't matter where you live, it doesn't matter what subjects you talk about, it doesn't matter if you're a photographer or a writer or a videographer. It's about how you see the problem and how you communicate that reality to your community and outside of your community, and that's what makes you dangerous. And through them, we could say that we could show these stories as intimately as possible, but also give the audience the sense that this is a cancer, the violence, and that it has spread throughout the country, and that hopefully we as a society can make things change.
Yeah, you mentioned that you work in this documentary for 6 years. There was a moment that you guys want to give up, or that moment never got to that point?
Well, I mean, I think there were moments of self-doubt, no? With all projects, when you're doing them, like at the beginning, it's all potential, and you want to do it, and you know that you can make something that you can feel proud of, and that's what happened in the end. But at some point during the process, like you feel like you didn't manage to do something as good as you thought, and I think that's a very important moment, because when you let go of that, you realize what you do have, and you put together something with what you have, and what we had was a lot, because these guys are amazing journalists, amazing people. Their stories are powerful, and it was just about letting go of any other possibility that could have been, and instead working with what we had. And I think that the documentary is very representative of that, because it's a story that has a bit of everything. It has some moments that are very suspense-like, and that don't know what's going to happen. Some very human moments. Some moments that you become indignant that the government isn't reacting to what's happening. So I think that the final product is very representative and very rich of the whole process.
Okay, and for us to wrap it up, what was like your biggest challenge? Everything?
Yeah, I think yes, everything. I think as a documentary filmmaker, I'm not obsessed with the timings of the process, because each project is its own process, and each movie finds its own way of manifesting. And this is especially the last 2.5 years have been very intense. So at some point, you're working together with a film crew, and you're going out to some places that are a bit risky. At some points, we were putting together the stories within the editing room, and it's a more solitary process with the editors. Then when you have the finished product, you want to go out there and you start knocking on doors of festivals and platforms, and you also have to push for this to happen. So it's always demanding, but especially now that we're so close of like putting it out there on the platform and hearing what people resonate with the film, it's a great moment.
Yeah, everybody's gonna be able to see the whole world. It's not just us
Yes.
here. That's amazing. Santiago, I just want to thank you so much for your time. Muchas gracias. Muito obrigada. And I hope everybody gets something out of this documentary. Very important. Thank you so much.
Gracias. Un gusto, Jana.
Ciao, ciao.
If you like to support or continue to support Jana on Camera, don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share the videos.